As we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil.
You shall join in pledging allegiance to the flag.
With allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We shall sing our national anthem, the Star Spangled Banner.
Oh, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Let us join in repeating the preamble to the Constitution of the American Legion Auxiliary.
For God and country, we associate ourselves together for the following purposes: to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States of America, to maintain law and order, to foster and perpetuate a 100% Americanism, to preserve the memories and incidents of our associations during the Great Wars, to inculcate a sense of individual obligation to the community, state, and nation, to combat the autocracy of both the classes and the masses, to make right the master of might, to promote peace and goodwill on earth, to safeguard and transmit to posterity the principles of justice, freedom, and democracy, to consecrate and sanctify our association by devotion to God.
I now declare the meeting of the Junior Group of Unit 175, Department of Louisiana, regularly convened. The Secretary will read the minutes. The monthly meeting of the Juniors of Veteran Unit 175 was held on February 1st at the Post Road. The meeting was called to order by the Junior President at 11 o'clock, according to the Junior Handbook. The Secretary approved the minutes of the Junior meeting as read. The following chairman gave their points. Americanism: Ronald Reagan, William Harrison, Abraham Lincoln, and George Washington. Children in need: Annie and Julia brought toiletries, toys, and food to Ronald McDonald House. Tiffany brought canned goods for school. St. Catherine of Siena is collecting pennies for leukemia patients. Community service: Tiffany picked up trash in the school's field. Amy and Julia babysit their neighbor. There being no further business to discuss, the meeting was adjourned at 12 o'clock. Are there any corrections to the minutes? If there are no corrections, the minutes stand approved as read. Americanism. President Thomas Jefferson, born April 13, 1743 in Virginia. President James Monroe, born April 28, 1758 in Virginia. President James Buchanan, born April 23rd, 1791 in Pennsylvania. President Ulysses S. Grant, born April 27, 1822 in Ohio. Children and youth.
At this point, we will dispense with the rest of the junior meeting because the juniors will now interview the veterans that we have here. Our junior president is not present. She had something of utter importance to take care of today. So, which one of you veterans would like to be first? You have to give your branch of your military service, your rank, and your ID number if you have it. Now, would you like to go first?
Well, here. Okay.
Right behind here, right behind here, that way they can get you on the camera. Mr. Eddie, would you please state your name?
My name is Everett L. Lazare. 276013, that's my serial number in the United States Navy. I was a Navy veteran of World War II. I joined the Navy in August of 1945. And I was in boot camp when the war ended. But for boot camp in December 5th of 1945, I landed on Guam in the Marianas Islands. Spent 18 months on Guam. I was a motor machinist mate, 3rd class. I was a maintenance man on Guam. I worked on the base. I took care of all the generators. I fixed them, and I had people I had to be over that stood watch on them. And from there, I came back to the United States on a 60-day leave. And I went to San Francisco, California. I went to Yerba Buena Island. That's known as Goat Island, underneath the bridge in the middle of the bay, right next to Treasure Island. From there, I caught a ship, an LST 694. I served on 694. What we did on LST 694, we went to sea every other day and dumped ammunition. We took all the old ammunition out of all the ammunition dumps, all up and down the coast. We went to we was in Mare Island Navy Yard. From there, we went to Port Chicago. That's a ammunition dump, and that blew up during the war. It was totally demolished during the war, and then they rebuilt it up. And then we went to Long Island, not Long Island, what's that place in the beach in California? And went up to Seattle, put stuff out of Seattle. And then that was on the LST. And after I put the LST out of commission in Bremerton, Washington. And from there, I went back down to Mare Island Navy Yard. And from there, we traveled down to San Diego, and I caught a subtender, USS Ferry, AS-12. And that was, we was in San Diego Bay. I think it's still in San Diego. It's an old ship. Well, it's an old ship now, but it wasn't old when I was on it. And we used to just maintain the ship. We had 9 submarines on the side of us. And this one submarine was always at sea, 90 days. They went out every 90 days, and they'd come back, and another would leave. We had 9. But we also went like on Navy Day, we went up to San Francisco with the submarines. People come aboard the ship and view the submarines and all that stuff. And then we went up to Seattle for Navy Day one time, and we had a big thing when a lot of people took us fishing. Of course, I didn't go fishing, but they came aboard and took us out on these boats to catch salmon and all that stuff. And I came back, and in 1949, I was discharged. And I'm one of the youngest veterans of World War II, because there ain't too many of them. younger than me because I graduated from high school in May, in August.
Mommy coming.
I went to boot camp in San Diego, California. And when I was on Guam, we used to have I went out there, released some of the people that had time to come home. In other words, we went out on Guam, we left so that people could come home that we had enough time. They used to discharge people by the amount of time they had. And I was on the base. That base had 6,000 radio men. I guess what they call them, communication people. And that was the base I was on. Joint Communications activity was the communications for the whole Pacific Fleet. Everything came through. We had, well, for everybody, because we had the Army and the Marines, the Navy and the Coast Guard all on that base. And they used to, they had little patrols that would go out and they would bring in these Japanese that was hiding out in those caves and stuff when I was there. They used to come in with their hands on their head, walking in, turning themselves in, because they dropped these pamphlets. I wish that they brought some of those pamphlets home here. And they showed the Japanese all burning up. I couldn't read it, it was all in Japanese, but evidently it was about the atomic bomb that they dropped. They wanted these people to turn themselves in. And then I joined the American Legion when I came home. And that's about it. You didn't turn out the camera.
No, it was, thank you, Stan. Stand up.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I've been in the American Legion for 54 years.
64 years.
54.
Oh, 54.
Go up there and get my grandfather's spot.
Say it loud.
Come up to
Tell me the true story of your grandpa, tell you.
My name is Casey Candabat. My grandfather just passed away in January. His name was Henry Glory Jr. He was a staff sergeant in the U.S. Marine Corps. He entered the Marine Corps in December of 1941. He was sent to Guadalcanal and he traveled in other islands of the Pacific. One story that always stayed in my mind that he always shared with me was he would always do trading with other ships that would stop on Guadalcanal. And one of his most important trades he had made was he traded 3 hot apple pies to the U.S. Navy for 5 boxes of cigarettes. And they took the cigarettes and they gave it out between all the troops, and they said that was the one thing that made all the troops happy, to have a cigarette again, and it really gave them spirit. And that was one thing that always stuck in my mind, that even in the middle of war, he still had the idea to try to get the troops happy again, to try to give them a little sense to be reminded of home.
Do you know his rank?
He was a staff sergeant in the U.S. Marine Corps.
But you don't know his serial number?
No.
Talk loud.
Grandpa, can you please come up so we can interview you?
Okay. All right, my name is Julius E. Haydell, Jr. My serial number is Z338017. I joined the United States Merchant Marine Maritime Service in 4th of June of 1943. I stayed 5 weeks on the maritime training ship. Then I was transferred to Houston, Texas. They put me aboard an oil tanker as a fireman. I spent 6 months and 11 days. We went down to New Guinea. It was along the coast of New Guinea, oiling the destroyers and escorts and different naval ships. After coming back, we come back to the States. I come back to New Orleans and I joined another ship, steamship, which is a Liberty ship, in a General Army cargo. I was a fireman water tender. We was on that from October the 30th, 1944 to May the 18th, 1945. 6 months and 18 days, and went back to the Philippines to discharge his cargo. Came back to the United States, came to New Orleans, shipped out of New Orleans and went to Frisco. Picked up San Francisco, I should say. Picked up a ship in San Francisco, the George Clement Purvis, another Liberty ship. It was a General Army cargo due for Japan before the invasion. From June 1945 to March of 46. The war ended in August 15th, 1945, and we stayed out there. We didn't get back to the March of 1946. We came back with the same cargo because the war ended so early, so fast after they dropped the bomb. And I had certified, I had 26 months and 16 days on ocean-going vessels. And I told you about Maritime Service Training Ship. That was 5 weeks down in Florida. On yeah, I told you that. That's about it. Discharged in March of 22, 1946. Thank you.
Julian Ann, thank you for
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
I gotta get something to drink.
Hmm?
I gotta get something to drink.
Yeah.
My name is Michelle Pomez, and I am a past honorary national junior president. This is my daughter Katie, and she's 2. And due to surgery, my father was unable to be here for an interview, but we are planning after recovery to submit a written report on his service in the Army. Thank you, girls.
stand up and thank you. Julie, you want to say something? That you,
Thank
you're in the question?
Got a punch?
You turned it off?
Not yet.
Turn it off. And you're thanking the veterans. Stand up.
Good morning, all veterans, men and ladies of our service in the United States of America. I'm Shirley Lesky, Junior Chairman of Metairie Unit 175. And on behalf of all the juniors and myself, I want to say thanks for all you do to protect us in this country of ours. Thank you. That's good. Where you from?
And her things that her daughter didn't want, I had it framed.
Goofy girl.
Maybe you can put your lady veterans in there, because she was a veteran if you want. You ready?
Ready. This is a picture of Miss Gloria Tadauer, as she is affectionately known by her junior group. Gloria was a Korean veteran. She was a lieutenant in the United States Army Nurses Corps. Gloria, in her memory, to have this shown today at her junior meeting. Gloria was a junior chairman for about 40 years or better. So this is a tribute to Miss Gloria. And we hope that our little junior group of Metairie Unit 175 has contributed a little bit to the veterans that were interviewed today. We thank you. You want to say thank you? Come up, Liz.
You want to help?
You want to come on, Jaden, take a picture of all of them. Come on, darling, come sit up here.
Oh.
You all have already met,
Julia.
He's at the turned off. Yeah. At this point, I would like to introduce Anne Maria LeGrand, who is first vice of our junior group. Julia Marie LeGrand, her twin sister, who is the secretary of the junior group, and Liz Lesky is a sergeant at arms. And you all have already met our little color bearer, who will not be detached from her mother's lap. So again, girls, thank you. You all did a great job.
Go.
You ready? My name is H.J. Louviere Jr., serial number 38381160. I was in the United States Army. I was in the 554th Anti-Aircraft Battalion attached to the 29th Infantry Division. We landed on Normandy on D-10. That's 10 days after the invasion of the Omaha Beach. And I went all the way through, all the way to the Elbe River in Germany, where we stopped for the war was over. There's a few just pertinent points, because it would take me a long time to go through the whole deal. But when we landed on French soil, the scariest part of my mission, because it didn't get dark over there till around 11 o'clock at nighttime. And as soon as it started to get dark, the German airplanes would come over and they would drop flares on us and light up the whole territory. And we couldn't, although we was an anti-aircraft unit, we couldn't fire because we couldn't see them, but they could see us. And that was a very, very, very scary part, because they would strafe us, they would bomb us, and we couldn't do nothing about it. And this went on night after night for many, many, many weeks, because we landed on June the 6th, but we didn't make the push into the interior of France till July 21st. All right. The next most important part of my service was when we arrived on the Ruhr River in Germany. We arrived on Thanksgiving Day of 1944, and we stayed in that one position. We was 1 mile from the Ruhr River. And my position, I asked this question to one of my officers just a few years ago at one of my reunions. My position, I had a minefield in front of me and a barbed wire entanglement in the back of me. And I asked him if we'd have had to retreat, how were we going to do it? He said he wasn't going to retreat. He was going to fight to the end. So that was that deal. But we lived the whole winter. We lived from Thanksgiving till I think it was around the 21st day of February. We was in that one position, and we lived in snow 3 foot deep. We crawled on our holes at nighttime and just tried to do the best. Many times you wouldn't even have any dry clothes to put on. Just the heat of your body would dry your clothes. On Christmas Day of 1944, when the Battle of Bulge was on, that was our last encounter with the German aircraft. We had a German airplane fly just about, I could say about 50 feet above us. I could see the pilot in the plane. But as he passed us, one of our other units shot him down. So that took care of that deal. Huh? And then after that, the war was more or less just keeping up with the front. We was always, because we were anti-aircraft and anti-tank, and we was always on the front lines. Many times we was in position and the infantry was just coming by passing us up. So that was that deal. So any other questions you want to ask?
No.
When did you come home?
When did you come home?
War is hell. Believe it. It's not fun. It's not fun. And it's just through your belief in God, prayers, not only for yourself, but your people at home are praying for you. This is one point I want to stress upon you. Although what condition I was in, but I always managed to write my mother and my wife a letter.
And when did you get out?
Huh?
When did you get discharged?
All during the war.
No, when did you get
Oh, when
discharged?
was I discharged? I was discharged on the let's see, what's Thanksgiving? The last day of October, 1945. I was discharged in Hattiesburg, Mississippi.
Did you get any medals? Medals, did you get any medals?
Medals.
Oh, my medals.
Ribbons on.
Well, I have a whole gang of medals. And in fact, if you wanted, I could bring them over here one day and show them to you. I have my son made me a big picture, this big and that high, with my picture in it when I was 19 years old, and all my battle medals, including the Bronze Star, and the citations to that effect. And then later on, just a few years ago, I did manage to get my medals. All I had at one time was my ribbons, but I did manage to get all my medals. So my daughter, she made me another big picture with all my medals in it, and I have my citation that represents my brick that I have at the museum in New Orleans, and also a citation that I received personally from some Frenchman at the museum for all veterans that actually fought on French soil. I have that in the picture with that other citation, and plus all my medals. What else? Oh, thank you. And I did this about 2 years ago in Hammond. My daughter asked me to do it for some kids, and it's a pretty good. It was more. And what I did, I got up my attic and I got all my memorabilia that I had, my maps and shell caissons and everything else, and I brought it all to them kids, and all they still, every time they see me up there, they always come up to me. You remember me?